Welcome back to another Lo-Fi Monday. I'm still in the Shoot Your Shot podcast set, Tim and Lindsay's podcast. I'll put a link down below to it. We've changed the name to Shoot You Hot.
That's our podcast now.
It's good. Joined by Lachlan today, as always, Lo-Fi Monday. And today we're going to be talking about how to book your first 5 weddings, some things to look out for, how much portfolio you need, and a few other topics that all go into it. Hello, Lachlan, and welcome back to Shoot You Hot.
Here. Shoot you hot, Taylor.
So the first, I guess I'm going to say the first weddings that I booked, I feel like I didn't really have a strategy of any sort, that I was just like, I do weddings now. And then also my website was half music photography. And I think I had some commercial photography, some kitchens. I had everything on there. Nice. It was crazy. That was like the first paid job I did was shooting for a contractor. So I was like, oh, this pays me money. Like, yeah, I got to market this. So it was very confusing for my couples to come in. Fortunately, a few of them did trust me. But overall, I would say there were a few kind of key things for me. And it's funny that like years and years and years later, we're doing them with Ignite. I would say that the first thing I did was obviously building portfolio. And I just started asking my friends, and sometimes you have to bribe your friends. So the way that I bribed them was that I was a concert and music photographer. I was doing band promos. And if a band needed promo photos, I would be like, no problem. Gonna do them for free, as long as everyone that has a partner and I can go out and do a couple shoot. And some of them were super into it and it was awesome. And some of them like were definitely there because it was part of the deal. But the ones that were excited about it, that portfolio was pretty much my portfolio, I would say, for the first probably like 3 years of my business, was all just friends. The weddings that were coming in, they were definitely, I started at a very low price point. So the weddings weren't necessarily like the details and everything weren't what I wanted to show. But what I did, when I did show my friends and the people, that's what got people excited. They were like, oh, we love this wedding. Oh my gosh, you shot inside a Starbucks? That's crazy. At the time it was easier, lower bar. But that was like my first portfolio, and it started booking me weddings. And then, do you want to talk about the engagement sessions? I feel like that was another big piece for me, realizing that if people could try before they buy, they were a lot more likely to trust me.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to trust. And if you don't have those like proper foundations for trust, like you don't have, an Instagram that's like filled with like all this depth of portfolio at all the local venues in your area and people recognize them, or, your website's a little bit of a mix of different things. Those are all kind of the red flags on the trust pole, but then there's nothing that like compares to actually going out, meeting somebody, connecting with them and working with them. And I say this pretty often, but I think the very best marketing any photographer can do is just go out behind the camera and do what they do best, which is take photos. And, there's just no substitute for that. I've worked with hundreds. I've been to hundreds of different sessions, and something that stands out to me every single time is like every photographer that I see working, it's a very different experience. I'm always shocked how that experience is just a little bit different. And I think that most couples, they don't really know what they're getting themselves into until they're actually behind the camera. And that's when it clicks for them. Like, when they're behind the camera, they feel comfortable. Maybe you show them some photos in the back of your camera. When you deliver that gallery, they're like, wow, these are, and it's like super meaningful. So I don't think there's any substitute for that. My question for you, Taylor, is, if I'm a photographer and I've never shot a wedding and I don't have any wedding portfolio, what do you think? Do I start going out and trying to market weddings, or for them to kind of come in organically, for somebody to trust me to say, hey, shot our engagement session, would you do our wedding now? How would you approach that?
Yeah, it depends. I feel like, so for myself, and I feel like a lot of people watching and listening, you probably want to, like, you're probably a little frustrated that your business isn't growing as fast as you want. It's like you've decided you want to do weddings and you're like, I want to go now. I want to shoot a wedding next weekend. How do you set that up? There are 2 strategies for this. One would be, as I mentioned, convince your friends to dress up. Hopefully, if they've already been married, get them back in their wedding clothes, pay them, bribe them with pizza, beer, money, whatever you got to do, to start generating at least some wedding portfolio. The other thing you can do is just pay professionals as well. So there's a ton of workshops, and I feel like this is maybe there's a line that a certain number of your images on your website, once you do get up and running, you can't just rely only on workshop images because it's going to be something that is maybe unattainable for you to capture on a wedding day. If it is a big set and you have like 3 hours in this set to generate images, obviously that is a little bit not even gray area. That's just lying to your couples of what you're able to create. I think there's a balance between workshop and real life wedding images, but in the beginning, I feel like you can rely a little bit more on those workshop images. I would say where my line would be rather than going into the big sets with, like, if there's a huge floral setup that's just not going to be something that you're likely to discover in your first couple of years of wedding photography, but to use photos of the couple in realistic situations that you could find yourself in, I think is like totally reasonable. And also to be honest with your couples as well. And again, this all goes back to trust, that you're not a 25-year veteran in this industry, that you're whatever style of photographer that you're currently in, and now you're getting into weddings. Maybe you're a family photographer, now getting into weddings. And if you tell that story, people will understand, and just don't lie to them and make them believe that you can create something if somebody else has like lit the set for you that you can go in and do on a wedding day. So I think that there's kind of that bridge to get over. I think it also kind of comes from the couples side of things, that if somebody's interested in hiring a newer photographer that's maybe year one into it, they're probably not going to have a $500,000 budget for their wedding. So if you are shooting those things, it's just going to be a disconnect as well. That the more simple you can make it in the beginning. Gabe McClintock, a great photographer, a friend of mine, does a really good job of this as well, where he curates his social presence to only photos of couples. That's it. Like, you're not going to see a photo of a wedding party on his website, maybe in a blog post, but as those portfolio images, it is only photos of couples. I think that this is kind of where I would start building out my portfolio and kind of sticking to that and staying a little bit away from details until I get to a point that those details will now sell me and book me more weddings. But I would want those from real life days rather than from styled shoots and things that could be a little bit more gray.
Yeah, that's great advice, Taylor. Like, just going out, finding couples to work with, and then, posting those photos in your own portfolio on your own Instagram, maybe adding in a styled shoot here or there. I think that gives you actually a really good foundation. Then you can go out and start introducing the topic of booking the weddings. And I also think it's a function of just like working with that many couples. If you're delivering a great client experience, they're going to be sharing those photos on their Instagram, on their social media. They're going to be tagging you. They're going to be writing you reviews. So you have more of that trust and that social proof, and what you end up with is a bit of a client base, actually. And I think there's a lot of value in like every single person that you work with and you give a great experience to deliver, something special to. There often is sort of this like snowball effect, right? That couple shares those photos, tells their friends, and then those people are interested. And almost creating this bit of like that referral loop there. It's interesting. We actually had a husband and wife team in Ignite, and the husband was a videographer and the wife was a photographer, but she hadn't shot a wedding before. He'd done weddings as a videographer, but she'd never fully shot a wedding, and she'd only done couples. And what we ended up doing was having them in the Ignite program. We let them know the risk. We said, hey, this doesn't fit the normal bill, but I think this strategy can work for you if you approach it in a certain way. And that was their intention. They started doing all these, engagement sessions with couples through the Ignite program. They do a little bit of video, they do a little bit of photo, and just that experience of working with both of them, they managed to book quite a few weddings because just that trust and getting to work with them in person, see what it's like with them, the couple's feeling comfortable. And then you end up with a few of them that are like, hey, you know what? We want video, we want photo. If you guys are going to give us obviously a pretty good deal on the photo, we're willing to like roll the dice a little bit, knowing that this is your first wedding. And obviously they're being very transparent, and that was a requirement of them being in our Ignite program. But it definitely worked out pretty much exactly the the strategy you described there.
Yeah. And I also think there's a bit of a grind you have to go through where you have to work with the awkward couples as well. That if you're only working with pro models and people that are super comfortable in front of the camera, it's really, really easy. And the first time that you get in front of a couple that is genuinely awkward and you have to solve that problem, you learn a lot really fast. And I would say that's maybe the biggest learning that you need, because as a wedding photographer, you have to be able to walk into any situation and you have to be able to create the caliber work that you're showing. So whether that couple is super awkward or super just completely confident in front of the camera, you're going to have to be able to get that awkward couple to that confident point as fast as possible. That's probably one of the things that you can teach it like a little bit on the internet. You can see how people shoot, but to actually be in that situation and actually do it, I think is, maybe even more important than actually learning all the technical of photography, in my opinion.
I agree with that completely. I'm really glad you said that. I think the experience is everything, you know. Like I said, I've been to like hundreds of sessions with different photographers. I just find them fascinating, and it's the experience that comes out when you're with a couple that doesn't feel quite themselves, or they're a little bit awkward in front of the camera, and being able to break through that is a talent, like a proper talent. And I think adds so much to the experience. And I think something that's interesting about photography as a thing that we're selling is we're really, really, really not selling the photos. We're selling an experience, and the photos are just a result of that experience. And like you said, Taylor, if you can't reliably create that good experience, the results are inconsistent and your product is inconsistent.
Not good for business and not good for referrals.
referrals.
One thing that I struggled with a lot in the beginning was my website, that I had some portfolio images, but I decided it was a brilliant idea for me to make my own website, and that was incorrect of me to do, I think. I think that one thing looking back that I would do would be to definitely get help when it came to all of those things and to not be in complete control of it, because I spent so much time just like reworking my website, being like, this is what's wrong with my business. If I only spend 5 more hours changing everything that I did last week, that I'm going to be booking weddings, when in reality, that was just a big distraction for me. So I would say the easiest way, head on over to bookvocal.com, and that's your easiest way to get a wonderful photography website as easy as possible. That is one thing that I wish I would have done different, because that was just, I probably burned, like, I'm going to say, actually maybe 300 or 400 hours over the course of like 3 years building a website and being like, no, that's not it. And like, new website out like today. And then always tweaking, always revising. And I never realized, probably until maybe even like 5 years ago, that that was just a useless waste of my time, that I could have spent all of that time or even a quarter of that time actually creating work and working with couples and generating behind the scenes footage and social media content and going to venues and bringing couples engagement sessions to venues and talking with the staff and getting at least on a track to become a preferred vendor. That all would have been 1,000% better of use of my time, rather than just reworking the code and trying to tweak things that really, in the grand scheme of things, they matter, but like I could have done it way faster and I could have had help. So I'm sad that I didn't learn of outsourcing, and I was uncomfortable with it for a long time. But I'm happy that I'm kind of there now. So yeah, that's one of my big takeaways from starting this whole thing, this business.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I mean, I relate to that so much, because we've been in business long enough that we'll have a photographer come to us early on in their career, in their first or second year, and they're so hyper fixated on like, I have to have this font and like 12 different fonts on my website, and it has to be pretty and like look so good. And they're always looking on desktop, not mobile. And we're like, look, like 90% of your traffic is going to be on mobile. So, you know, that little weird animation you have doesn't matter. And then it's so funny because they'll come back like 3 years later and they'll be like, you know what? I get it now. I don't care about those things. I just want my website to work. And obviously with Focal, it's super easy. It's a $650 one-time setup fee, which is dirt cheap, honestly, for website setup. And if you do the Ignite program, there's some other perks as well for our Focal customers. So yeah, if we can help with that, definitely we're happy. And we see this all the time, where you have a photographer spending most of their marketing time sitting behind a computer and not being behind the camera. And I think, like Taylor said, I always say this, you know, especially in the early days when you're trying to book those first few weddings, the best way you can spend your time is out connecting with people behind the camera, not sitting behind your computer and fussing around with your fonts and the padding between your images and your website. Just get out there, go shoot, and give people like an amazing experience. Taylor, I have a question for you, because this is another one that comes up. Sometimes it's like, you talked about like, oh, I'll just get all my friends who are coupled up to like do engagement shoots. What if I don't have any friends? Or all my friends are single? What do I do in that case?
I would say,
and I can't afford to spend thousands of dollars on a styled workshop.
Yeah. I had pretty decent success. I would say it's very hit or miss though. When you put out just kind of calls that you'll do free engagement sessions. I did this in different locations that I went to. So I wanted to build a bit of a destination portfolio. So if I was in Vegas or LA, I would try to leverage social media. This was before ads were easy to just target in those locations. I would offer up those free engagement sessions to friends of friends or like anyone that I could get in contact with. And a lot of the time, it was like Craigslist and stuff. It was mixed results that for every 5 shoots I would do, one of them would be great. One of them would be horrible. 2 of them would probably cancel. And one of them was just like, it was somewhere in the middle. So I would say now with our ability to do paid ads, I would probably be advertising just similar to what Ignite does for those free engagement sessions, and putting yourself out there and just collecting a good portfolio of people, and also working again with those people that are maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, would that be what you would recommend as well, and what you've seen working?
You really didn't qualify those couples, did you? You just said,
no.
Here, take your free engagement session coupon.
Yeah, it was literally Craigslist. Yeah, Craigslist. No idea of if they even wanted to book anything. I guess that was also not my intention. My intention was to shoot portfolio, so it wasn't necessarily for sale. But yeah, it was no qualification. I shot a few free weddings on Craigslist as well, and I was just like, hi, I'm trying to build my portfolio. And then one of them, I talk about this in my book, but I basically showed up and there was another photo team hired because they didn't trust me because I was this free photographer. So they paid this like $400 team to show up. That was the weirdest, still to this day, shooting everything on like 11mm lenses in the basement with like windows blacked out. It was nuts, but awesome. I got portfolio from it, so I was happy, and I got them some of their nice photos from the day. But yeah, real mixed bag when you're not qualifying couples in any way. So yes, please. How do you qualify couples? How do you actually shoot sessions that are worth shooting, that both generate portfolio and will also potentially lead to that one of those first wedding bookings?
Yeah. I mean, this is like something we hear all the time in the Ignite program. Like, you know, obviously running a free engagement session campaign is nothing new. Like, this is the marketing 101 strategy for wedding photographers. Believe it or not, how you run that campaign matters a lot. Like the process and the qualification. So, you know, when I hear photographers say, yeah, I ran free engagement sessions, and I'm like, how did you do it? And they're like, yeah, I just like put this thing on Craigslist, and like literally anyone that wanted to do it, I just said, okay, meet me at this park at this time. And I'm like, like, wonder why that didn't work. I think the reality is, like, if you're doing something like this, you need to have a system, or you need to have a process in place. Couples can suss out the newbie energy, and nothing screams newbie energy like not handling engagement sessions in a way that's professional. So my advice here is, like, if you're just starting out, you treat every booking like it's your 100th booking. What that means is you use a professional system, you get them to sign a contract, ideally e-sign the contract, have a proper system for that. Don't fax over, you know, something to sign and then have them like fax it back, or that. Like, come on, use a professional system, send them an invoice. If the engagement session is free, great. Say, hey, my regular engagement session is $400 or $500. And you just cross that out and you say, this is a engagement session giveaway, or it's in maybe in lieu for like giving me a Google review, something like that. Because then it creates value in their mind. They're like, hey, I'm getting something that would regularly be $500, and I would like to even give something back. If you're just saying it's free, it's free, it's free, it doesn't matter, then the couple's also going to think it doesn't matter. And you're going to get issues with like ghosting and them not taking it seriously. I think Lindsay and I actually talked about this when she did Ignite. The couples were almost like guilty. I remember Lindsay talking about how the couples would be like, oh my God, Lindsay, like, how can we make this worth it for you? Like, what locations do you want to shoot? How do you want us to dress? Like, we're going to make sure we get our makeup and hair done properly, because they almost felt guilty. They knew like how much she normally would charge for an engagement session. I think that professionalism is so key when you're doing something like this. And then obviously, like, that's just step one. You got to qualify the leads. You gotta qualify the leads. Yeah.
The CRM, so like back-end system that you use to book people. Focal websites also come with a great CRM as well. So just a shout out to that if you want an easy up, like it's also attached to your website. So everything just looks consistent and nice. So easy solution for you if you want to get a professional web and back-end presence in a very, very easy way.
Yeah, I think we even have a free plan where if you want to just do like free invoices and not actually take payments, you can use it just for that. So definitely just use something, please. Please use something, because it's, again, like I have so many photographers say, yeah, Lachlan, heard you talk about that free engagement session thing. I posted on my Instagram story, free engagement sessions, and I didn't get any wedding bookings. This can't work. I'm like, okay, like fair enough. Again, comes back to like professionalism and qualification. And as far as qualification goes, you should not be offering any free engagement sessions unless you know that couple, and this is the case that you're trying to book a wedding, not just trying to build portfolio. If you're actually using this as a book wedding strategy, you want to actually qualify that couple. What that means is you should talk to them, number one. So, set up a Zoom consult call or meet them at a coffee shop just to chat with them. A great way to frame this is you say, hey, there's no reason for us to do an engagement session if we don't get along. If it's awkward, it's just going to be more awkward when we're behind the camera. So I like to do a little icebreaker over Zoom or meet up at a coffee shop just to make sure that the vibe is like good. And if it's good, cool, we're going to do the engagement session. Everyone understands that, and it actually makes it more comfortable for the couple if you position it that way. So I highly recommend doing a consult. When you do a consult, you can get a sense of if this couple is serious about booking a wedding. And this is a big part of the training that we do in the Ignite program, because, we're booking you honestly like almost 5 to 10 consult calls a month in Ignite. So you're doing a lot of them. And part of our training is actually educating our photographers on what to look for. And usually that has to do with just asking them a little bit about like where they're at in wedding planning. If they're excited talking about their wedding, they want to share their whole vision with you. They're talking about their budget. They're talking about who's coming. Is it big? Is it small? What the decor is going to be like. All of those are great signs that this couple's really, really serious about sharing that with you. If all they want to talk about is the engagement session, well, they're probably only interested in the engagement session.
Yeah. I have had a few of those that were only interested in the engagement session that just booked a few days ago. It was a very, very long sales cycle, but
fair enough.
It was because they hadn't even considered the wedding yet, that they weren't even planning the wedding. They were engaged, yes, but there was no plan of anything yet. I think one of them was still in school and they were waiting after that, then they were going to plan. I would say that is an outlier scenario. But if your goal is to generate portfolio to potentially just have some sort of camera in hand content, I would say that it's probably worth it in the beginning. If you find a couple that you get along with, that even if there is no potential sale, if you are out there to get your skills a little bit better and to generate portfolio, I think it's totally fine to do. At some point, if you are trading your time for free, you are going to want to start making sure that those are pretty likely leads to that would consider converting, or that would also maybe pass your name along to friends as well. I found that while I would book a number of those weddings from the engagement sessions, I would also, as we've discovered with a lot of photographers, a lot of those weddings would actually book before we even did the shoot. So them agreeing to do the shoot was like, oh, like they've in their mind committed to like that. Okay, we've decided to go with Taylor. So we'd actually do contract and payment before the engagement session for the actual wedding. So they'd save
And
a
that's
little bit.
only because they met you.
Yeah.
No one's going to pay unless they've actually met you and there's a connection and trust.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was something interesting that I discovered, that, yeah, the giveaway was like, oh, like we actually do like you. They go a little bit more in depth. They talk with you and then they're likely to book their wedding, whether it is before the session or after. I also got a ton of referrals from those the early engagement sessions and weddings as well. I feel like at some point it kind of tapers off a little bit, but in the beginning, you really do get a lot of referrals from those first few weddings. I don't know what the deal is, but maybe it was just the age of the couples that they had a lot of friends getting married. But it seemed like for every wedding that I would shoot, I would probably get like 5 or 6 inquiries from either people that were at the wedding or were in the wedding or were somehow associated and friends of friends. That it was like very, very high numbers coming in. I was also priced at a price point that maybe made that a little bit easier. And as I've grown my business, I feel like if I get one good qualified referral from each wedding, that's awesome. That's like sustaining my year. But I would say that is more the usual case now rather than like the 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 that I would get in the early days. So things to look forward to in those first few weddings that you really will, like that one wedding can explode your business, and one good wedding that if you shoot it for like somebody that's like kind of a key member of their friend group and they have 25 of their friends that have been engaged recently or are getting engaged over the next year. If you do a good job of that wedding, you're going to pretty much fill your entire calendar, and then you're going to become the wedding photographer for that friend group or that family, which is honestly kind of fun. I've probably done, I'm going to say maybe 30 or 40 weddings over the years that were for a sister, and then the brother would get married, and then maybe the parent would get married or something. And I would do like a 3 or 4 weddings within the family, which was really fun because by the second wedding, you kind of know who everyone is. By the third wedding, it's like, oh, like there's no barrier to unlocking like the real emotion of the day, that they know you, they trust you, they're there. They didn't even consider having another photographer, that you're just like kind of weirdly part of the family by then. And then you get like funny jokes from like the dad being like, I guess this is the last time we'll see you. Like, hope that you're in business still. Like, we've been financing you for years. But that is like something that is honestly a lot of fun. And it makes, I don't know, your days like, I don't think I go to any weddings even now that I'm really dreading going into this wedding day. But those weddings are like absolute highlights for me whenever it's like a friend group or a family that I already know. I'm really excited to go into those days because I know that I'm going to create better work because I'm just like, I have immediate access to everyone, that nobody's going to be standoffish. Cocktail hour, people are going to be asking me for photos with their partners, their families. That's also going to roll into family sales because now like the same people have seen me around so many times. They're like, oh, like, we trust this guy. Like, why is he around all the time? And that's going to roll into family sales and maternity sales, newborn sales, whatever, wherever you want to take and scale your business over time.
Yeah, I think, again, that just speaks to the fact that the best marketing you can do is really behind the camera, and being at that wedding day, you're interacting with so many people and they're feeling comfortable with you, and those experiences lead to those referrals. They're memorable, right? And it's that feeling of feeling comfortable with that photographer, that trust that that they always take with them, and then they'll want to come back to you on. I was waiting for you to tell me at the end of that story, Taylor, that they adopted you and you became part of the family.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I think like it's interesting. Like, we actually have kind of different types of photographers in the Ignite program. Some are a little bit earlier on in their business, and for them, the main value is kind of what we're talking about here, which is just building portfolio, shooting engagements. And I want to make it also really clear that like we don't do free engagement sessions. We do, but we don't. Actually, every couple that we offer free engagement session to, we always charge a travel and planning fee. Usually that's a minimum of $100. And so any engagement sessions that are happening while you're in Ignite, you're actually getting paid for. And Focal doesn't take any percentage of that either. So it's kind of interesting. Like if you shoot an engagement session a week in Ignite for a year, that's like 52 engagement sessions. I mean, if you shoot 52 engagement sessions, like that's going to lead to quite a few weddings, I think. And obviously we've seen that, but you're also getting like that minimum of $100 per engagement session. So, 52 times 100, $5,200, that actually covers your Ignite investment. And you're probably getting some weddings out of that as well. So I think, a lot of value in just working towards building up your business that way through these engagement sessions, as long as you're handling them professionally, as long as you aren't doing it in a newbie way. So if you're trying to do this yourself, which I know we have hundreds of photographers that go off these videos and try it themselves, like please don't cut corners. There's a reason why Taylor and I have designed and structured this system and this process in a certain way. If you cut corners, it's not good for your clients. It's not going to lead to the results that you want. And you're going to come back and say, oh, Lachlan, I tried what you said. It didn't work. And I hate you. And I'll grill you to make sure you followed all the steps. I bet you didn't.
All right. So booking your first 5 weddings, start generating portfolio. Do it by any means necessary, I would say. Once you have some people in wedding dresses on your website, at that point, you have momentum and you have at least a little bit of a sample of what you can do. From there, focus on trust and all the places you can build trust, social media, showing up on Instagram stories, typing things into Instagram and not just posting photos with no caption, no comment, and always reaffirming what you believe that wedding photography should be, I think is also important. That if you're talking on social media and on your website and maybe in your promotional video that you're getting made from all the behind the scenes content you're shooting, from all the shoot, like every shoot that you do, like get some behind the scenes content to prove that you were there and to prove that the images aren't AI essentially. But all of those trust indicators, and talking about like, if you like candid photography and that's going to be a trigger for your couples, they're going to be like, yes, we do want a candid photojournalist for photography. Typing that and putting that into the internet in as many places as possible. And really just kind of making, it's not rocket science. It's also not incredibly challenging, or you don't have to do something completely different from everyone else in your town. I would almost recommend against doing anything that's completely different and to go with the market a little bit. But by creating just as many pieces of content, getting your camera in your hand as many times as you possibly can over the year, is the easiest way to start booking those weddings, I would say.
More weddings. Let's go.
That's all for Lo-Fi Monday today. We'll be back again next Monday, Lachlan, to talk more about booking weddings, making all of your wildest dreams come true.